Good morning, everybody. And yes, it is bright and early morning because it is 6 a.m. for me, but I am excited about today for multiple reasons. One, my guest has been on the show before, but I love chatting darts with him, and he's going to be very insightful on some good coaching tips. I'm also very excited because it's Thursday and we're one day closer to the Super Bowl. And of course, I'm wearing my Chiefs jersey. If you watched yesterday, I was wearing the same jersey. I did change my underwear, though. I will admit I changed my underwear, but I'll be wearing this jersey all week long. And who knows, I might wear it for a week or month or two afterwards when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. All right, well, before we bring Dynamite Dave on, I do want to take a minute and thank my sponsors. So let's do that. Of course, we got to thank Shot Darts. Just love what they've got going on, and there's some new cool barrels that I have had a sneak peek at that'll be hitting the market here soon, so keep an eye out for those. And we want to thank Magicwear for their incredible jerseys outside of the Chiefs jersey. They make some good threads, guys. Got to check them out. You can do off-the-shelf, semi-custom, all the way to full custom jerseys. And then we've got good old Condor Zero Stress. The Axe system is what I currently use, and they've got a really nice system there. All right, let's bring on our guest today. Oh, and I have the wrong label on here, but I also want to say that we are now sponsored by Atomic Darts Coffee, which, of course, I've always been sponsored by, but, got to tell you guys, the coffee's available. It's up there at atomicdarts.com. Let's bring on our guest, the one, the only Dynamite Dave. What's going on, Dave? How you doing, sir?
I'm all right. How are you, Matt?
Hanging in there. It's bright and early for me. It's afternoon for you, and excited. I get to go play in the snow with my kids today, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, you were saying you were going to go for a bit of a drive and have some fun. Why not? That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what we do all this work for. It's all about having fun.
Exactly. So, sir, let's see. Just in case there are some that don't know exactly who you are that are watching the show, could you give us just a little bit of a recap about your darts? I think you were born with darts, if I remember correctly, but if you could just give us a little bit of your background, just for those that don't know you.
Yeah, well, I'm Dynamite Dave. I have quite a large YouTube channel. Started off when I was a kid playing darts on log end, which is something from Manchester in England for all you guys from around the world. What it is basically is it's the end of a tree sawn off and a dartboard marked on it. And that's how we used to play darts. And it was dipped in water to keep it soft so that we could actually throw your darts into it. I just came through through the ranks like you do, playing darts up until the teenage ages. And then I ended up with my missus, who I've been with since I was 15 years old. When my eldest son got to 21, I bought him a dartboard for his birthday, and I just fell in love with it again. Started played a bit in the pubs and what have you, but was not very good, to be honest with you. 40 average, 45 with a couple of pints inside me, as you do. And then what I did was I decided that I wanted to be better, because I've got, as you know, Matt, I've got an engineering background. And when you're an engineer, you sit down and you think about things, and you want to know how things work and how you can improve these things that don't work the way that you want them to. So I spent 2.5 years developing the Dynamite Dave way of throwing darts. And I've now got, must be thousands, it's definitely in the thousands of people that are actually throwing in the Dynamite Dave way. And if you go up on over to my YouTube channel, all you've got to do is go to Google or any of your search engines, type in Dynamite Dave, and you'll see I'm about the first 10 or 15 results, even on Google. So I must be doing something right. And I have a particular view about throwing darts and what have you, and I believe everybody can throw darts to a really good level if they make it simple. The way that we've always thrown darts, just a little bit of an insight into the way that I think about things. Whoever's round you, like in America, you get a lot of people and they stand square onto the hockey. Same thing in Japan, China, Asia, Australasia, all those sort of places, they all tend to stand square onto the hockey, whereas a lot of people in Great Britain and certain parts of Western Europe stand side on. So it just shows that what happens is you develop your darting throw by your peers. So one day, maybe you're 18, maybe you're a bit before that, you go into the pub and somebody gives you a set of darts, you want to give them a set of darts, and what do? You just fling them at the board. And that's how everybody starts. They all start by flinging the darts at the board. Well, flinging at your darts at the board will only get you so far, and then you've got a tiny, tiny percentage who will be able to perfect that on their own without any help whatsoever. Your average common man in the pub who's throwing at a 35 to 40 average, I'm getting them up to now 70s, 80s, and some of them are up to 90s averages. So it shows that the Dynamite Dave way does actually work. Take some perseverance, because like anything, and the argument that I get off a lot of people is, and I had this the other day, I had a couple of aerial guys round sorting all my aerials out in my house because they'd gone off, and the young chap, the apprentice that was with him, noticed the studio and he, oh, what do you do? So I told him who I was and what I did, and he said, well, how can you teach somebody how to throw a dart? So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put it back to you. How can you teach somebody to kick a football? How can you teach somebody to swing a golf club? Is there a right or wrong way to swing a golf club? Is there a right or wrong way to kick a football? If you toe bang a thingy in American football, it's not going to go through the goalpost, is it? So you've got to teach somebody how to kick a ball properly. With a soccer ball, as you call them, Matt, in your country, with a soccer ball, you can learn how to swerve the ball by kicking the ball in a certain way.
Yeah.
So there's a good way to kick a ball and a bad way. I've found a really, really, really good way of throwing darts, and I'm just sharing it with everybody. On the YouTube channel, I share it across the world for free. Nobody has to pay me a penny. And then other people, some people, they support the channel, and other people travel all the way from America, Canada, Alaska, Japan, Australia, South Africa. I've had people from all around the world come and stop in a hotel near me, and I've coaching from it. So it's growing. It's growing at its own pace. I've never forced it. I've never had adverts and stuff like that. So I've just let it grow on its own. And the ambition, I mean, I know this is a long waffle, but that's what people are used to. The thing is that the ultimate ambition is for me to give up my day job and be able to do this as a comfortable living. I don't want to be a millionaire. If I wanted to do that, I would have gone down the pro circuit. Once I got to the point where I was tapping 100 averages every time I play, which I was before I had my knee done, and I can still do now, 100, 105, 106. I think the highest one I've had since I've had my knee done is about 115, I think, if I remember rightly. But bearing in mind that's only over 10 legs, my 10 set best average is 107.4. So yeah, I probably could make it as a pro if I wanted loads of money, but that's not my calling. My calling is to teach other people. I've done it all my life with different things. Another little bit of a side shoot. I used to be a mechanic. I used to have a big motor vehicle engineering shop where we did custom cars, rally cars, all that sort of stuff. What I used to do at night time was teach ladies, blokes, young guns, anybody who wanted to know how to do points, how to set spark plugs, how to change wheels, just the basic stuff. But I just absolutely loved it, and I get so much enjoyment out of teaching people. It's just unreal.
Well, first off, I think we need a book. You need to do a book. And I could point you in the direction of some websites where you could go and get your book written, because that'll take you to definitely that next level. And I want you to know that two of my highest match scores would beat your one match score. I just want to say, because if I combined the two of them, I can beat you. I mean, I always find it very interesting when I talk to people that have been in the darts community for a while. Two things that I always notice. One is people get into it and then they fall out of it, and then they come back to it. And when they come back to it, the passion seems to just be that much greater. And I think for two reasons. One, there's so much history that they get to remember. And a lot of times it's when we were kids. Like I played as a kid. We had a dartboard around the house. My dad had been stationed in Spain, and it's one of the things he brought back was the love of darts. And then it went away as I got older, and other sports became stuff, and chasing girls became a sport, and playing football, and I got into archery heavy, and then I came back to darts a few years ago. Now it's probably been 5 or so years, and really the thing that got me super, super motivated outside of just playing in my office for fun was watching it. But I always hear people like yourself that kind of grew up with it being a thing that fell away, that come back. And that second time, man, it's not just, hey, I want to play. I want to learn. I want to teach. I want this to be something big. And I think like Peter Wright, everybody's like, if you're new to darts, you might think, oh, Peter Wright, all this other stuff. You got to go back to when he had hair. He played well, but he stepped away. Well to me, come on. But he stepped away. And this is where I want to get into some questions about the game, and we'll get into some of the ideas and things that you do. When he came back, it was a different mindset. He created the character. He created a mindset. I've had the pleasure of speaking with him off the Oche, and the more, I don't want to say timid, but just the quiet guy who he is, and he's just fun. I saw him in Vegas. I kind of had him in an area where we just got to chat, and it was a blast. But like we were talking a little bit earlier in the green room about the mental aspect of the game. And so I want to ask you and get into it because I know you talk about this. Can you dive a little bit into some of the mental aspect and talk a little bit about some of the stuff we were talking about, like with Mervyn King, and how the mental game gets played and we don't always see it?
Yeah, well, what we were talking about was Mervyn King. And, I put Gary Anderson into the picture as well, because I believe both of them played a victim, which is what I was saying to you. And all it is it's just a form of gamesmanship. I mean, I understand like where they're coming from very, very slightly, but for me, when I play, like you say, we've got the infinite line that goes around the world. If the player moves to one side to gain an angle to get a double, and he crosses that line, the first time, I won't say a thing. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all make mistakes. So let it go. If he does it 2 or 3 times, that's a different story. If you think that he's doing that to gain an edge, and that's the way that he's sort of like trying to calculate the circulus to give him the same distance from the board, then the second time, I'd probably just give him a bit of a look as he walked back from the hockey. But the third time, I would complain to the ref, definitely. Yeah, but I certainly wouldn't have done it under the circumstances that he did that to Rob Cross. Personally, I think it was disgusting. I wouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't condone it. If
you guys didn't catch this in the Masters tournament, Rob Cross and Mervyn King played. I guess it was first round, and there was this potential where Rob Cross may have crossed the Oche line. And it didn't go anywhere because Rob Cross does what he has been doing lately, and he bowed out early. But that Oche line literally encompasses the world. But as you get further away, you're further from the dartboard. And there is a way to kind of, if you bend it a little, you could get the same distance, which means your throw is going to be the same. But you have to be just off the Oche. I mean, literally, you could come to America and make that throw. That would be legal. It would take a long time and you would never hit the dartboard, but it would be legal. And what happened potentially is that Cross had, because the throw, he had to walk like 80 feet away from the dartboard. There's the potential that he may have crossed the line a little. But the thing that a lot of people don't understand is there's a camera on that line. There's someone watching that line. There's a ref that is specifically, that's part of his job is to watch the line. And it had no outcome or bearing on the match, but Mervyn King made a huge stink about it, and that's what we're talking about here. So, Dynamite Dave, if you could get it, because like we were talking about that mental push, like we were talking about how there wasn't the protective box, through the, when the player was at the Oche, you could literally, and I'm not going to, again, I don't want to name names of any 16-time world champions that would literally kind of come, whisper sweet nothings in your ear while you were throwing. But rules have changed and been created to make it a little bit more of a fun game where some of that's pulled out. But you say that the game is 80% mental. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And 20% actual thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, physical abilities is what I consider to be 20% of the game, and 80% is the mental side. I mean, I coach a lot of people on the mental side who are really good dart players, but the problem with them is they're fantastic in the back bedroom, but when they're in the middle of a crowd, they fall to bits.
Oh, you're talking about darts. Sorry.
Yeah. No, well, it's one of those. Like everything, you've got to gain experience, and there's ways of doing it. There's ways and means of doing it. The dart players that I really admire are the ones like Dave Chisnell. Not for his play, because his play is good, but again, moving off at a tangent, he's more of a Jockey Wilson than he is a Phil Taylor. He's the thrutch, it works, but not consistently. But what I love about Dave is you'll see this, and all you've got to do is just go and watch one visit of his out of any one of his matches. He stands right at the back, right out of the way, so you can do all the messing about you want to do. And this is part of the mental game, this, you know. It's not part of the physical game, this is part of the mental game. He stands right at the back. Fallon Sharrock does it as well. Plays with the darts. She plays with the darts. Dave just stands there and looks down at the floor. What I tend to do is I do the other thing. I turn my back. I'll walk out to the back and I'll turn my back on the board. And it's something that I teach my players. It takes a while to get them into it because mental states, it's difficult to teach somebody unless they're open to it. But I can actually breathe myself down to a point where I can hear what's going on around me, but it's like being hypnotized. It has no effect on you. So you can hear the caller calling, but you don't hear what he says. When you turn around and look at the board, you can see your score, but you can't see your opponent's. And that is the only way of becoming the ultimate dart player in my mind, because you then actually doing what every professional dart player, be it Peter Wright or any of the others, Simon Whitlock, I've heard say it, every one of them, I want to play the board, not the player. And that's what James Wade does. And that is why James Wade can beat you and he's 10 points behind you. You can be on an 105 average, he can be on 95, and he'll still take the match off you. And that's why I don't hold great. I use averages just like everybody else does, but I don't hold them in as great a stead as a lot of people do, because you can still win a match even though you're behind on the averages, and you can be quite a way behind on the averages and still win a match. At the end of the day, mate, it's all about putting it in them doubles. And it's doubles for dough, trebles for show. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, I mean, speaking of James Wade, he is one of my favorite darts players. And you know, he's been in the top, 10, for 20 plus years. I think in that time frame, he stepped out of the top 10 maybe once, but he's been in the top 10, top 8 for, I mean, that's a long period of time to be able to maintain that. And it's because of he's the machine, and the nickname fits. He goes and he plays the same way every single time. And it wears you down to see a guy come that, when we talk averages, a lot of times will be 5 points different, sometimes 10 points different as an average goes, and he'll still beat you. And it's because when it comes to the outshot, he's got you. And that's one of my favorite things about watching him. I would love to see him win some more majors. I mean, he's done some. I think he would be a great world champion. We've had, Peter Wright, who unfortunately just didn't get to enjoy the world championship year that he should have. We got Gerwin Price this year, which is going to be fun no matter how it gets played. But then I think if someone like the Machine came in and just was like this steady calmness, it would blow this sport up, because we would have such the roller coaster ride. So I'm hoping for James Wade to have an incredible year and cap it with a world championship going into next year. That's my hope. But in talking with this, the mental aspect of the game, it's really a matter of playing yourself, which is what they all say. You talk to Gary Anderson, you listen to him, and it's, you just gotta, if your opponent throws a 100, you throw a 120. If he throws a 140, you throw a 160. That there's that mentality of, you just have to step over them.
Yeah, but Matt, what do you do? Stand on a second. Let me just turn this off. I don't know who this is.
All right, so I get to talk now. Come on, Dave, take the call.
No, it's all right.
Was it anybody important?
No, just somebody wanting some coaching looking at it.
You could have put them on the show. They could have joined.
It's typical. It's my fault. I think I went over there to turn my phone off before I sat down in the green room, and then I thought, I need the little boys' room. Just went straight out of my head.
No worries.
As it does. Right, where were we?
We were talking about mental game and
James Wade.
James Wade. Here's a question, though. Or does this say, Dynamite Dave helped me out lately? I'm going to throw a question out there so we can change the subject up, and then I want to get into the toe to the Oche question that I have. But Bob Hamilton, who is my president of my league, and he's a very good dartsman, he says, Dynamite Dave, help me out. Lately, I'm putting together some great legs, and then I have a stinker where I score at half the average of a previous leg. Tips for eliminating those bad legs, trying to make the next level jump, which, Bob, you're not allowed to because then you would be way too good and none of us can beat you. But how do we get rid of the stinkers, where you throw a 180 and the next thing you throw is a 26? How do you get rid of the stinker legs that you might have in there?
Well, a lot of this is down to people's individual throwing styles, which is something that I've had many a conversation about. Funnily enough, the lad who I was coaching up to 15 minutes before we came on air was doing the same thing. What he's doing is he's throwing a lot of fives, a lot of ones, because for the simple reason is instead of his arm, let me see if I can get it out, instead of his arm being vertical like this, his arm's over here in front of his face. So what that does is it creates a chopping motion. If you imagine your dartboard is vertical like that and your arm is chopping in and out, if you release the dart 1/100th of a second too early, it's in the 1. If you release it too late, it's in the 5 because you're chopping across the board. If you're direct up and you're going that way, those two little increments mean you're just above and just below the treble. So you scored 100 instead of 26. It's something as simple as that. As simple as that, and making sure that you know how to fix when you have because we've seen everybody on telly, purple patch, then it goes off. Exactly what happened to Gerwyn Price in the World Championships. He was going like a steamroller. But the thing is, he sees another part of the mental side of the game for you, going like a steamroller. But what happened to him was it was that good, and this has happened to me as well. He's been in the zone for that long. When you've been in the zone so long, all you're waiting for is for it to finish. Everything that starts has an end. Life has a start, life has an end. Purple patch has a start, purple patch has a finish. A bad patch, a dip, has a beginning and an end. So the only way that you can shallow those out as much as possible is by being as, in my mind, and the way that I do the Dynamite Dave way, as simple as possible. Because as simple as possible means it's easy to repeat. It's more accurate because it's easier to repeat. It's more reliable and it's easier to fix when something goes wrong. I can literally, if I'm playing in a match, and anybody who's played me will tell you this, if I have a bit of a stinker, it's usually 2 or 3 visits. And what I do is I forget that leg. That's another thing you've got, a part of the mental side of the game. If you have a bad leg, you've got to let go. You've got to let go. All right, it means a lot if it's the first to 3, so you've got 2 legs to thing. But if it's like in the thing of the Bastards, if you've got 11 legs to play with, losing one is neither here nor there. Because really, if your opponent's anywhere near you, you should lose every other one anyway. When you've got the arrows, you should always win. When you haven't got the arrows, that is when you can forgive yourself for losing. But like what you were saying before, if your opponent throws 100, you're supposed to throw 120. So what do you do if you've thrown a 26? Shoulders go down. Oh, no. What am I going to do now? Next time I go to the board, I've got to get a 140 or a 180. Because if I don't, that's the wrong thing to do. What you've got to do is just keep your mindset and everything nice and calm inside you. And when you're hitting the big numbers, what I try and do is I try and keep, it might seem a bit kooky to people, this, but it's part of martial arts. And what you do is you keep the energy in the centre of your body. And I find that when I'm scoring, really good for me. I'd sort of like, when I do a good score, I put it in one place and I hold it there. And then when I'm stood at the back and what have you, I just breathe out, get myself nice and calm. You'll have seen this loads of times if you watch darts. How many times do they come up for an important dart? Just like Gerwyn Price did. Do it all the time, but do it invisibly. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And just let yourself down and down and down, and just let that calmness descend over you. And I'll give you an example of what that sort of thing does. The lad who I was coaching before I came on here had a camera at me and a camera at the board. I coached him for an hour and I hit 27 140s in an hour. And that is part of the course for me. 100s, I had the odd thing, I had the odd 81 and the odd 85, but I don't let it get to me. Because that 85, I have a good idea that the next one will either be a 1. Unfortunately, I didn't hit any maximums. But again, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't matter.
You know, I would be happy if I hit 85s every single time. I mean,
to be honest with you, that would be a perfectly good. It'd be if you could hit 80s, 100s, and check out pretty reasonably, you'd be at county level.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take 85s every single time I throw. It just doesn't happen all the time. So Bob did say, hey, thanks for the advice. And really, it's interesting when you think about, like, I know for myself and where, you know, the where I'm at with my game and a lot of those that I play with in league, like we'll go and throw. And if I've got 2 in the treble 20 and then I throw that third one and it's off, you get the little bit of excitement, like, oh, I got, and then the down, like, oh, I missed it. And I've noticed that based on my body reaction and that the next throw typically is worse, you know, and you know, I'll get maybe a 60 or maybe I'll get a 41 or a 45 when I was so close to the ton 80. And it's because, and I really believe it's because of that just excitement that I'm going to hit the 180 and then the letdown. And because of the letdown, and this is where I think James Wade comes in and the mentality of him. And then I want to ask you a little bit about Chizzy and his match and then loss. But when it comes to James Wade, he's just, it doesn't matter what he hits. You almost never, there's no reaction from the guy, except for every once in a while, he'll give you that, you know, like, F you kind of mentality because he knows the camera's on him. But that's his gamemanship. That's his superpower, is that he's just like, dude, I'm level play. But I want to ask, so Chizzy comes out who had not beat MVG but like once in 27 matches together or against each other and just annihilates him in the World Championship and plays arguably the best match of that tournament.
Yeah,
just kills it.
I don't think that's arguable. I love Chizzy. I love the way that he is, and he's just a lovely, lovely bloke. And he's just, you know what I mean? He's a 180 machine. He's an absolute 180 machine. But the problem with Dave is his mental side isn't as strong as it could be, and is the mechanics of his throw are too difficult to replicate. The forefather of that, as we all know, was Jockey Wilson. Anybody who knows anything about darts knows who Jockey Wilson is, and they know the jockey that was called the thrutch. He used to throw it like that, very similar to Dave. What that takes is it takes a 1 in 10 million human being who's got fantastic hand-eye and motor coordination. So every time he's throwing, his brain's calculating exactly where he needs that dart to go, and his muscles are performing it for him. There's very few people in this world that can do that. Very, very few people can pull a throw like that off and be consistent. Jockey Wilson was consistent, but I think only because it was in his day, in the 70s, 80s. That's why he was considered to be fantastic. I absolutely guarantee you he'd struggle against a county player now.
Yeah. But
in this day and age.
I mean, we saw Chizzy just play this incredible match, and it was beautiful to watch. And then the next day, it was like Chizzy never even showed up. But we see that happen with the pros. Yeah, is it really just a mental aspect, or is it that it emotionally takes so much out of them, or is there a physical thing? I mean, what, in your opinion, looking at that, I mean, we have to assume it's mental to some degree, but is there a way that you don't lose that edge? Is there a way that you can come out the next day and at least maintain some of that. In your opinion, I mean, what would be something to help? Like, so I played one match in the morning and I crushed it, and then I have a little bit of a break and then I come to play again. How do I maintain that ability to just, you know, crush my opponent?
Well, the way that you maintain ability is by making the thing that Chizzy at the moment just wouldn't be able to do. And it's all about making your throw easily repeatable. I mean, you've got people, and if you've watched some of my videos, you know what I'm talking about. You've got people, and you've got all this going on in the throw. You've got to get all that right. Every single dart, every delivery that you make, you've got to get that right. How simple is that?
Yeah, kissing is an incredible thing outside of that type of kissing, but keeping it simple, stupid, really seems to work with a lot of things in life. If you keep it simple and you don't, there are always going to be those that are able to take something a little out of whack. If you've ever watched golf, Jim Furyk, who had the most incredibly amazing, weirdest swing ever, who won majors and played incredible golf.
Was that the figure of 8 guy?
Yes, that was the guy. And it was a short period of time where he was really great. And I think part of that was because of his swing. But when you look at darts, keeping it super simple is what's going to get it done. But I want to ask, so toe to the Oche. So we know that there are a lot of different styles of coming to the Oche and you know how we deal with our feet. You're saying is toe to the Oche. What is that about? Where does that come from? And, you know, are you saying that MVG should be putting his toe to the Oche?
No. It's not actually your toe that goes on the Oche. It's your little toe. We stand side on, not straight on. Toe to the Oche started, believe it or not, in the Wheel Tappers and Shunters Club, which was like a variety show that was on in the 1960s/70s. And basically what it was a song that came out about darts. And it was one of the thing of the verses in it was toe to the Oche. So basically, putting your toe against the Oche to throw the dart. All it is I've turned that into my saying, but it doesn't actually mean putting your toe against the Oche, because to be honest with you, if you put your toe at the Oche like that and then you put your foot behind it like that, you're in a T shape and you're not stable. So you need your 2 feet flat like that. And what I tend to do is I tend to, like, say this is your foot, that's the knuckle of your little toe. The knuckle of your little toe sits on the Oche. So you've got a tiny little bit of a non-straightness in your leg. And what that does is it stops you from your hip from hurting and what have you. Then all you do is you don't lean forward. All you do is you rock your weight onto your front leg. That means that you've got your front foot is planted, but your back foot is still rock solid on the floor. So you don't move. Again, another golf analogy. And all the golfers out there will know this. You're stood like that, right, to address the golf ball. My camera's a little bit out, but that's level, yeah? Yep. If you move your back foot forward, you pull the ball round. If you move your back foot this way, you pull it the other way, naturally when you swing. It's exactly the same with darts. People don't realise that your foot position has an impact on where your darts land in the board, but it does. You might not think it, but it does. And what you do is, if you're set up wrong, you're then trying with your fingers in your hand and everything to draw the dart back to where it needs to go. So basically what you're doing is you're fighting against yourself. So that's why I always, all my videos, if any of the watchers go onto my YouTube channel and type in basics, it'll come up. And it always starts with the feet. You start with your foundations like you do when you're building your house. And you build it up, and the fancy bits are the bits that go on top. So that's your throw. And then it's like I say, it's just a matter of building it up. So it's your 2 feet level, what I call thorax neutral, which is a proper skeletal terminology. So basically, no slouching forward, no arching your back like this and trying to get the dart in front of your face. It's just standing natural like you do at a bar, like you do when you stood talking to someone. Then all you're doing is you're just fetching your arm across onto the stop. So you're looking at the Oche, affecting your arm up onto the stop, and it's that. That is all there is to my throw. That. And your release is exactly the same as if you're throwing ping pong balls into a basket. People are overthinking things. Should I release at this point? Should I release at that point? You don't do that. Allow your body, trust your body. What you do is you look at the target, and with your mind, you put the dart where you want it to go. And another thing, really, really important, don't throw the darts out the back of the board. Don't be doing this when you're throwing your darts, because a lot of people think if you throw darts faster, they're in the air a shorter period of time, so they're more accurate. No, they're not. As you go forward, if you throw hard, all you've got to have is a tiny little tremor in your hand, and that dart is just going to go right off into the 1 or right off into the 5. Whereas if you've got a nice long throw from here, nice and smooth and slow, because that's my thing. When I do that, that is how fast my arm moves when I throw my darts. And they go treble 20s, and every throw is the same. That's where the mechanical throw comes from. Every doesn't matter whether you're aiming for the double 16, the treble 19, the double 18, the treble 18, or the bullseye. The throw remains the same. And what we do is we just adjust the body down. So the arm speed and everything has a tiny little bit of difference in it. And it's like when I go down for a double, if I put one on the outside, it's a finger movement on the point of the dart. And I throw the dart exactly the same. But all I've done is I've lifted the point of the dart up 1/4 of an inch. So if I'm just outside the wire, it's bang in the middle of the bed, right on top of it. And that works 60, 70% of the time.
Well, I love when I watch your videos or this type of stuff, because I do learn a lot. And I learned a long time ago in golf, like if I was slicing, that I would draw my foot back a little, because that would change my body position, because I'm leaving my club face open. So if I throw and I'm hitting the 1s consistently, I will draw my foot back. Like if my first throw and the dart hits the 1, I will draw my foot back a little, so it changes my body position a little and puts me more aligned with the 20. Not that it always works, because you tend to throw where the first one went just because of a mental, like that's what you're looking at. So you go to throw at it. But I will do that. I will actually draw my foot back. And in some cases, that's kind of how I play the whole time, is by drawing my foot back. And I understand my alignment is kind of off, but if I'm in a match or something, I'm like, okay, I don't have time to fix all that. I'm going to do what kind of works for me. And also I'm not hitting 90 averages. So, some work I got to do. There is a question that someone threw out that was, I'm popping my elbow. Any suggestions to stop? Now, this could, of course, be like an actual medical issue, but if someone's kind of popping their elbow out, is what I'm assuming he's doing, not actually popping it, like maybe pushing it out.
Sometimes that means popping it.
Yeah, that's what I think he's going with on this. I mean, if it's actually popping out, dude, go see a doctor. But and I only play
if you're throwing like this and you're coming underneath your eye, right? If you draw your elbow in, look where my hand has gone.
Yep. And
I can see the dartboard with both my eyes. How many dart players out there, they go, I'm left eye dominant. So the right-handed players, the left eye dominant, and they go like that with dart. And I go, you ain't eye dominant at all. You're putting the dart in front of your eye. You can't see through it, So you can't see through your hand, and you can't see through the dart. So basically what you're doing is you're throwing with one eye. We're the same as monkeys. We have binocular vision. And that's why we have 2 eyes on the front of his face, because we can judge distance really, really well. If you cover one of them, you're losing 50% of your depth perception. So why would you do it? And like I say, it's only because of the way the game has developed all around the world. Everybody from the 1950s and 1960s has gone like this with a dart. They think they have to aim it. You don't have to aim the dart. You're not tossing it. You're throwing it. You actually throw a dart. You don't toss it. You're not putting it underneath here and tossing it like this. What you're doing is you're throwing it. So what you need to do is you need to get it at the side of your eye, because you're still aiming it. If you think about it, when somebody said to me, how do you aim the dart? I said, well, you do and you don't. The simple reason is, I said, was when you fetch your arm up, I said, if you fetch it here, you're aiming the dart, but you're blocking your vision. I said, what's the difference between the dart being here in front of your face, and here at the side of your face? It's still on level with your eyeball. So where you're looking, the dart will go. But you've got 50% more vision of the actual target that you want to go to. So it makes it after a while, it's like anything, Matt. People who convert to the Dynamite Dave way, you've got some of them, They go into it wholeheartedly, and they're on the path, and they stick to it. And within a couple of weeks, it makes a massive difference to what they do. And then you've got the other people who go and do it for 5 minutes and then go, it don't work. Well, if you're right-handed and you write with your right hand, if I say to you, go and write me a letter with your left hand, do you think you'd be able to do it after 3 or 5 minutes?
No.
Exactly.
But so I agree with you, because I know, like in sniper school, the best snipers are always the guys that leave both eyes open, and they actually teach it that way now. There was a time period where they didn't, but when you are looking through the scope, you should always have both eyes open, because you're getting depth. You're getting your depths. I can't speak today, and you're able to see if there's other things happening. So if you're going to sniper school, just know that if you're going to practice shooting, shoot with both eyes open. But with that said, two of the best darts players ever are one in particularly draws the dart to his eye, and I am speaking about the Flying Englishman himself. Flying Englishman. Gary Anderson's going to get pissed at me, but Gary Anderson specifically draws the dart, and then the best darts player arguably ever in the world, a 16-time world champion. I just love saying that about him. He is left eye dominant, throws with his right arm, and if you watch him, he actually pulls his dart. He changed that over the years, but you go to his younger years, he really pulled the dart right into like the middle of his face. Both of those players, being arguably some of the best ever, don't do exactly what you're saying. So,
and they're both two sides of a coin.
Okay.
Because Gary Anderson, the first time anybody gave him a set of darts in the pub, he threw, I think it was 140, 180, 140. So basically, he's a 100% natural hand-eye coordinator. Phil Taylor is not a dart player, and he'll tell you this himself. He's not a dart player. What he is he's a tradesman. And what he did when he was with Eric, God rest his soul, when he was with Eric, what he did was he turned up every day, week in, week out, month in, month out. When he became the world champion, he was the first in the venue in the morning practicing, and usually the last one to go at night. For the simple reason is as I say, he was a tradesman. It's like somebody who's a roofer. You get some roofers that will put a roof on, it'll take them a week, and when they've finished it, the shingles or the slates are higgledy-piggledy. You'll get somebody else who can put a roof on in 2 days, and you can't find a fault with it no matter what you do. And that's the two differences. It's because Phil Taylor put the hours in. Snooker players the same. You get your Ronnie O'Sullivans that can play in his sleep. He can get out of bed in the morning, leave his slippers on and his nightgown, and he can go downstairs and hit a 147. And then you get other players who've got to be in that practice room. In our game, absolute point in fact, Rob Cross, if he doesn't practice, he's garbage. And that's what happened in the Worlds. What's happening with Rob, and it's no detriment to him, because it's happened to many people before him. I think because he got into that catapult, got fired straight into the top ranks. Once them pennies start running into the bank, you lose focus of what's important. So when you've got the money to go off to America or Florida or wherever, and you can go on holiday, you've got two choices: are you going to practice or are you going to go on holiday? Which choice are you going to make? Are you going to become Are you going to become or remain a world champion, or are you going to go and sun yourself by a swimming pool? You can't have both. You can't do both.
Yeah, and there's I get what you're saying completely. I do, like Gary Anderson, it is his throw, and it's been his natural throw forever. I think about the rock star. Well, I'm blanking on his name. I got the nickname. And Anastasia, they both hold the dart like up here, like literally, and gosh, why can't I think?
But mine's more controlled.
The rock star. What's his real? I got nicknames, but I can't. Thank you. It's like his throw is just so, but it's magical in the sense that the hand-eye coordination is phenomenal.
Well, what it is, he trusts himself. A lot of people, 99.9% of dart players, whether it be pub players or professionals, they don't trust their own body. They're making it so as they're trying too hard, if you know what I mean. It all becomes like this. Whereas if you're relaxed, I think it makes the game more enjoyable. And plus, the other thing is that's what I wanted to go back to. He was saying about Gary Anderson and the others, Phil Taylor and what have you. There's nothing I can do for people like that. They're too good anyway. The people that I aim myself at are the common garden people like me and you. I mean, you think about 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been on YouTube. We wouldn't have been able to reach the people that we reach. So this little thing of mine, I would have had two choices. I could have just used it for myself or become a professional player. Whereas now I've got the third option, which is my passion, where I can pass it on to other people. And the influence that, and this is undeniable, 5 years ago, how many people did you see do double finishing, which I've been preaching for 5 years since I started the channel? You look at it now, every tournament, the Masters, the World Championship, loads of them are starting to go for doubles because it makes sense. The way that I finish makes more sense. And the thing is it's all about doubles. You can hit as many trebles as you want. Like I said to you, you can hit 50 or 60 180s in a match. If you can't hit a double, you can't win. So if you make them part of your game and make them your best friend, like you want to make the treble 20, because everybody focuses and fixates on this treble 20. Forget the treble 20. I'll take 100s, me, and 85s all day long if I can knock out a 161 finish or a 144 or a 126 or an 86 and doing it my way, which is double top, 6 double top. And I'm telling you now, if you hit that in a match, you crush your opponent, especially if you do it 2 or 3 times. I've been accused of being a cheat and all sorts for doing stuff like that, and I've done it for years and years and years. 72 for me is double 16, double top. I always aim for the inside wire. If I put it in a single 16, it's one dart right next to it, and I'm already pre-programmed. Double top, bang, straight in.
Yeah.
I'm not there thinking, I've got to do treble this to do this and then go up there. I've got it in here at the back of the Oche, and that's where I'm going.
Simplifying it. We really need to get a book from you that goes through this. I know there's lots of videos to watch, but we need to get an actual book. I'm going to push you on that one because this is all stuff that I would be like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I watch the videos and so forth, but you don't always think about it, when you're at the thing, but it makes a ton of sense just to simplify the game. For those of us that are playing league type stuff that aren't in that pro level, if you're in the pro level, I mean, you watch these guys, they're able to do what they want. And again, they're getting paid for it. So good by them. But for the average person getting better, I do want to get back to this elbow thing real quick because Kenny said, I'm popping my elbow. And he says, what did he say? Popping on release. Here we go. On release, my elbow is popping upward. I would assume that's a release issue.
What he's doing, Matt, is he's tossing the darts instead of throwing them. I've just had somebody who I've just done a coaching video for, another American lad who's doing exactly the same. But what he's doing is, as he's throwing, instead of throwing like that, he's going like he's pushing the darts up at the board like this. So basically, what he's doing is he's throwing his elbow up. Naturally, what happens is as your arm straightens, your elbow lifts. Yeah?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter because once you get to there and that dart's been released, it doesn't matter if you do this with your arm. It's irrelevant. But the follow-through is to get that release point in the right place. So tell him not to worry. If he's throwing his darts and his dart's coming over, and then as he gets to where his arm is lifting, that is a natural thing that happens. But if he's driving the arm up in the air as he's throwing the darts, he's more than likely... It's as if you're throwing a ball over a fence instead of against it. That's the way I rationalise it. It's like throwing up and over instead of throwing at. So
you're lobbing. You would assume he's lobbing the darts instead of throwing.
Or what we call tossing over here, tossing the dart in the air. There's loads of old boys that do that. The older guys that are in the 60s. I mean, I'm in the late 50s, but there's some of the old guys that are in the like 60s and 70s. They tend to be prone to do that. And I think some of that came from the old bomb darts. You know, the old big fat barrel darts.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing a review on. I can't remember whose it was, but I had some bombs. It wasn't yours because yours are nice and light, but I had some bombs, and what they were doing was they were diving towards the end. So the natural thing to do if your darts are diving towards the end is toss them higher in the air. So I think probably the good thing to do is have a good look at your setup. Have a good look at your setup and make sure that you're actually throwing, using your throwing arm like that, and none of this. No throwing it up in the air. What you're doing is you're delivering the dart direct to the board. If you go and look at there's a recent video that says slow-mo on it. So if you go onto the top right-hand corner of my page, type in slow-mo, you'll see how my darts fly, and I've done slow motion capture from behind me. And when I throw my darts, they go through the air like that. Boom, straight into the board. There's none of this wiggling about. They just go straight over and into the board in a lovely arc. And that is all. It's not something that I've trained myself to do. It's something that naturally happens with the mechanical throw. And the other part of the mechanical throw is another one. If you go onto the YouTube channel and type in throwing with different darts, 21 grams, 24 grams, 28 stroke 30 grams, because they're set from the 80s, and I'm not sure whether they're 28s or 30s. I've never weighed them. One of each dart, 140s, 133s, big finishes with them, 3 totally different darts. And I think on one of them I've even put different flights and stems on them, so they're all totally random, as if you've just picked them up from behind the bar.
That's interesting, because at work, I have a dartboard up in my office, and I've got a couple, like the guys will come in and we play some darts, and I always feel real good because they can't play at all. So I beat them and I'm like, yeah, I feel good. But I have my set in there, and then I've got a couple other just random sets that I brought in with different lengths on flights and shafts. And I have noticed with my throw, if I throw a different, like a slightly longer shaft, the flight trajectory is absolutely different. And the way the dart places itself is different. So it would be a hitch or something within my throw, I would assume, because, or do flights and shafts really matter that much?
Not to me. But that's all I can say to you is that, more than likely what happens when you do need longer, shorter stems, longer, different flights and what have you, what you're doing is you're trying to balance the dart to where you're releasing it. So basically, we've got a dart somewhere, we certainly have. This one up here. If you throw the dart and you release the dart, say you've got one of them grips where you've got the dart underneath your finger and you hold the dart like that. When you project it towards the board, the wing on the back, the air pressure on the wing on the back rocks it upwards. And then it rocks back downwards and then upwards. So the dart can either land in the board that way or that way. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, if you make that wing smaller, you're going to get more of a reaction out of it. If you make it bigger, you're going to get a bigger reaction out of it. So hopefully it will, or if you move it further back from the aeroplane, if you move it back from the fuselage further, it has more influence on the thing, on the actual barrel itself. So the longer you make the stem, the more influence it's got. The bigger you make the flight, the more influence it's got. So it's a balancing act between the two for somebody who has an odd or a strange throw. If you throw the darts and when you release them, you're releasing them level or just at an angle, and they're going in a beautiful arc like that, it doesn't really matter how big these are. You must have seen those ridiculous Phil Taylor flights that are like that. I can put them in a set of darts and it makes very, very little difference. Mine don't sit down in the board like Taylor's did. Mine still stick in straight. So it just shows that difference there is all to compensate for your release and your throw. It's nothing to do with. It's like people, they blame the darts when they're not playing well and what have you. These never change. They're inanimate. It can't be the darts.
Yeah, no. I'm like, and I did a lot of trial and errors and I changed it slightly, but I play a short shaft and I play a number 6 flight, and I went to the Condor system because of it does seem to, when you throw with that particular system, there is a slight trajectory difference with how they interact and how they work together, being a solid piece. And there is a lot of flight technology that goes into darts, even at basically 8 feet. There's a lot that happens with the dart in the air. I would love to get to a situation where I'm throwing like you, where it's just super consistent. And I will admit a big part of it is I blame my kids, but it's me. It's the practice I put in. But
well, it's that and simplifying it all. I've watched you throw, and I know you try speeding it up so so it doesn't look as bad, but I've watched you throw, and seriously, there's some very, very small things that you could do that would make a massive difference, without any doubt. Oh, and the one thing I do want to say before we finish today is the B-52s. Fantastic darts, mate. They've done you proud there. They really have.
Thank you. It's a combination of a couple of barrels that I had. I basically stole designs and said, okay, I want to mash them together.
Well, is there anything other than that now? It's like music, isn't it? No matter what new music comes out, you can find it from the 60s.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, people have said, hey, it looks a lot like the Aspinall. And I'm like, yeah, it does, because I like the front grip of his barrel, but I made it thinner. And the idea is it looks like, a machine gun from a B-52 type mentality. And then the back section really comes from the Shot Zen. I can't remember which barrel it is, but it comes from one of the shot barrels. I just mashed those two together with a slight little twist and made them thinner. And that was kind of where I ended up I was at a fatter dart. I mean, it's a process. As anybody that's ever tried to create a dart, it's a process to get there. But I'm glad that you like them, and most everybody, nobody said anything bad at this point. Everybody seems to really like them. I've kind of told Shot, I'm like, dude, you guys need to just go ahead and release this thing. I'll take a small royalty. We'll call it good. And they said no. But,
Yeah, they like that with me.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll just take I'll just take a percent. Like, just give me 1% and you can have the idea. And they're like, no. So the soft tip is coming out though. It's in their production. So it should be done any day, and then they'll be shipped to me. So we'll have some soft tips to play with as well.
All I can say, Matt, right, is if you've not signed any paperwork, they make some good darts in China.
This is true. This is very, very true.
They do good replicas in China. So you'll be able to market them yourself there, mate.
Well, I can market these and sell these. That's not a problem. They're mine as far as they're concerned. I just tried to get them to market and sell them for me and give me a percentage, and they were like, no. I've thought about coming out with a line of like 4 or 5 different styles, because I have some other styles in my head that I think would be really fun to play with. And I may do that through Shot. I may look at going outside and having them done, because outside of Shot, most of your other manufacturers, believe it or not, this stuff's made in China.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on anything in any way. They've got the factory, they have the machinery, they do stuff. Shot just happened to set themselves up in New Zealand and back in the 70s. What people forget is, like, going to China and buying stuff, like in the last couple of years, yeah, you can send an email to someone with something and they'll do a mock-up for you and you can get it done. But, in the 80s, the 70s, the 90s, even the early 2000s, you had to fly there.
Yeah.
You had to go do business. So
now what you do is, if like thinking something similar to the B-52s or anything that you've got, if you can have one set manufactured that costs you, one of these one-off manufacturers is going to cost you £100 for a set. But if you then mail that set to China, they will probably do you. Well, I think I looked into it once, and you can get 1,000 sets of darts for less than £1,000.
Yeah.
And they're 85-90% tungsten. They're the real thing, and they're even cheaper if you have them shipped over as barrels and put your own points in them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to do it, and I've thought about it. Like right now, it's limited runs through Shot, and I love those guys over there, and they do some really cool stuff. And who knows? I mean, I think about growing just like you. I think about, like, if I was able to just put my whole effort, like my day, I didn't have to worry about family and bills and all that, and I could just take everything. I'm pretty sure I could build an incredible empire of darts and do darts news, and we would have products, and we would have tournaments and all this other stuff. But I realized I'm just one guy, man, and you can only do what you can do as one person. And I got a family, and ultimately, my kids take precedent over everything.
Oh, of course. So did mine when they were kids. Just fortunately, all mine now have all got their own houses, their own lives, and their own relationships. So I'm on the other side from you. It's when they've grown up. It's like the things that change are just like fantastic. I know you'll know I've had a new knee on one side and the other one's knackered anyway. I've got no cartilage in this side. I didn't have on either side when I first had them done. So I'm still in like quite a lot of pain most of the time. But the thing is, it's when it turns round and they're making dinner for you and stuff like that, and it just, you know what I mean?
It's scary.
Well, the thing is we've always had, like, our house is like Piccadilly Station, what we call Piccadilly Station. Not now because of this COVID thing, but on a Saturday, we could quite easily have 15 or 20 people through the house, different, like, daughters, sons, grandsons, granddaughters, mum, dad, both sides. Everybody used to congregate on our house on a Saturday, and everybody had breakfast and what have you. And it's just a fantastic community thing. Whereas now, me and the missus are getting older, we're starting to go to our son's house to do the same thing. So,
well, that's the way it's supposed to be. My oldest son is actually, well, if she says yes, which I'm pretty sure she will, since she already planned the wedding. My oldest son is getting engaged. I think Saturday is the day that he's planning on popping the question. It's funny, they planned the wedding before the engagement. I don't know, but whatever. That's what they do these days. But no,
I was with my wife for 5 years before we got married.
I'm trying to, I think I got one that I can get rid of, someone else's problem, but the other two, they're mine for a while. I do want to get into this just briefly, and there were a lot of questions, guys. When we end, Dynamite Dave will give you contact information. He loves answering questions. But I want to bring this up because this is something that's not talked about, I think, enough, and we need to recognize it. And you might have some ability to help some of these people. But there's a gentleman here, Mike, who he plays in disability darts. So if you're not familiar with disability darts, there's a league out there. There's darts out there for guys that are disabled, and that could be they're playing in a wheelchair. There could be some other disability, and yet darts is still very much a functional, fun aspect for them. And again, Dynamite Dave, I don't know how much you know about the disability darts. I know that it's pretty prevalent there in Europe, in regards to leagues and different things. But will your system, as long as the base is good, your system work? I would assume it would work the same, because I've watched your videos, and a lot of it is just, the mechanics of the arm and the shoulder and the elbow and the eyes, and that's that much. But when it comes to disability darts, one, I want to bring it up so that people know about it, but your system functional with disability darts?
Yep. And I know that because it's still a work in progress, and I've probably been on it too long now. But before the thing in the lockdown came, about 6 months into the year before, I've actually got a wheelchair in the shed. So what I'm doing is I'm going through the process of developing a Dynamite Dave throw for wheelchair dart players. Because now they've lowered the board. There's Mike, the guy who you're talking about there, Mike Swindles from Withenshaw. Hi, Mike. Nice one, mate. I sent him some goodies a couple of weeks back. And he goes to a place called Stockport Disability Darts. It's Stockport Lads Club in Stockport in Manchester. And I think if Mike is the one that I'm thinking he is, it was actually Nathan Aspinall that recommended Mike to get in contact with me. So, nice. I help a lot of disabled people, to be honest with you. But because of the lockdown, obviously, I can't go and play darts with them. So I'm just waiting for the end of this, and I'll be back at Stockport Disability Darts. I did that 2 or 3 times, just rock up, and there's loads of youngsters there and what have you, because it's all encompassing. It's not just wheelchair darts, and it's just not just people with physical disabilities. We've got lads there with mental disabilities as well. Not mental disabilities, mental problems as well. So there's all sorts. It's a big inclusive darts centre where all sorts of people go. And that's one of the things what I love teaching kids is because I like sponges. And there was a young lass there at Stockport Disability Darts, and she was crying because she'd lost a match. And I think I took her to one side and I said to her, I said, what you've got to do, I said, you've got to realise, I said that every time you lose, it's an experience. And every time you lose, you'll get better and better and better. And you'll be able to eventually beat the people that are in front of you, and you'll be 10 times better than them one day. Just give her a bit of a pep talk for about 5 or 10 minutes. And she was over the moon when she left. And you just got to build people up, give them that little bit of inspiration. And that's what I love about what I do, the satisfaction and it makes me humble the way that, you know what I mean, what I've achieved, I can now pass on to other people rather than keeping it to myself and just me benefiting from it. I can give a whole array of people my knowledge and my skills. Yeah. Anyway.
No, and I honestly, you know, the couple of times that you and I have spoken and just over email and stuff, I, without question, believe that you do have a wheelchair and that you are figuring out the mechanics of throwing from that level, you know, sitting, not like a level being a lower level, but just from the level of sitting and a dartboard being lower. I honestly, I wouldn't even question the fact that you know, there are some people I'd be like, yeah, sure, you're doing that. But with you, I know for a fact that you're going to do that and that you're going to provide whatever help you can for those that are, you know, playing in a wheelchair or whatever the situation may be. And that's one of the things I love about you. And watching your videos is how much you really care about the sport. And it's like we talk about like me getting my barrels from Shot. I know that they as a company love the sport so much, you know, that they go out of their way to help those that are in the community. And I was talking with someone yesterday just about the community and as a whole. And I love this thing. You know, like we look at the world, we look at the junk of the world, and yet you come to this community and it's awesome. Even though we have soft tip and steel tip, we got left side and right side, we tend to find a way to play well in the middle.
Matt, it's only motorcycles and scooters.
Exactly.
All it is it's thinking it's Ferraris and it's thinking it's Fords. It's Ferrari and Ford. It's only two different sides. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you drive a £100,000 car or £1,000 car. You get your ass in it, and it takes you to the shops.
I don't know. Ford seemed to beat Ferrari there for a while, so you know.
Yeah. But what I mean is it's each to their own in that sort of thing. Because I mean, I have a Jaguar, and it's thinking I've worked all my life for something that's really nice. And I absolutely adore it. I really, really do. I've had everything. I've had Mercs, BMWs. I've not had any Maseratis or out like that, but I know a nice car and I like a good car. But like I say, Jaguar, before that I had a little compact BMW. But at the end of the day, it only takes me to work and back and where I need to go.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you bring up Ferrari and Shelby, because it wasn't Ford by any means. It was Shelby. And I had a gentleman that I worked with for years, knew Shelby. He drives a Shelby custom, one-of-a-kind custom Shelby Mustang. He lives down the street from me, and I got to meet Shelby and drive with him, which was a blast. But I will say that you bring that up, and I look at it from darts, from soft tip, steel tip, or manufacturers. Both Shelby and Old Man Enzo had great respect for one another, even though they created different things and they went back and forth beating each other. There was great respect. And I think that's the key thing when we come to darts, is you have to have great respect for each other, for the game, and the differences within the game. And I want to end on kind of that note, but I'll let you say, you know, I know you got something to say about that.
Yeah. But what I'm really, really thinking grinds me gears a bit is when people complain about characters like Gerwin Price, Corey Cadby. You've got a list of them. I mean, what a shame about that lad. What a prospect he was. But as soon as he came, because he was thinking, he was big and he was brash and he was loud and he was prepared to, if he got a good shot in, well, I'm sorry, if you come and play me, that's exactly what you're going to get from me, because I do it even on my own in my back bedroom. If I get a 180, I do the same as what I do on the finger. And do you know something? This is one thing that's really good, this, lads and lasses, and you've got to do this. When you throw a big score, call it in your head and look at the difference that it makes to your thinking, to your positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
Get one. Get your own one. I've developed my own one. Don't do a rust braid. Don't do anybody else's. Do your own.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's bringing up Cadby, which are great eggs. Corey, no one's been talking about it, but he's going back after his tour card. He's gotten himself straight, and it was a mental just downfall. I think part of it was management, part of it was himself, part of it was just everything that was put before him. There was, a lot, and the relationship issues he was dealing with babies and baby mamas and all that stuff. He's gotten his head straight.
Yeah.
And as far as I last heard, he was going after his tour card this year, but no one's talking about it. And I hope he gets it back, because I love his character and I love his game. It is awesome. But I will say, people talk about Gerwin Price and what happened years ago, which, the guy practiced, he played. Remember, he's been in the sport 6 years. He's world champion. He's number one. That's a guy that put in the time and the effort. It didn't just happen for him. And the fact that there are so many players that here's what we don't get. And if you go look at like Matthew Edgar's, he's got his channel and all that.
Yeah.
You talk about it. What we see on stage isn't what happens in the back room. There are some cliques, but ultimately everybody has a great amount of respect for each other. And that's what this game needs. And it's the beauty of the game.
Well, we're all the same. I say we're all the same. All the YouTube lads and lasses. Something? There's loads and loads of things out there. There's cars, there's building works, there's mental coaches, and nobody talks to each other. This thing, what we've made with the darts YouTubers, and the relationship that we've got with each other, appearing on each other's shows, and just like fantastic collaboration. Do you know something? That is just, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome. I've got other guys like you and Neil's darts. People have sent me darts and stuff like that for me to review. And I was talking to him for these 9.5s, these very expensive ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why don't we all club together and because they're crazy money. Why don't we all club together, buy a set, and then just rotate it around each other?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I've thought about it. Like, I've got darts and I've sent some to some people, but I think because I buy 99% of the darts that I review. The only ones I don't buy is Shot will send me stuff. Not all of it. They send me some stuff. Some of the stuff I do for Shot, I purchase. I just did the 132, which I purchased. I just did the Danny Baggish, which I reviewed last night. So I'm going to edit that. Those barrels are sweet. They're over there. But I've thought about that. Like, we should just buy stuff. Like, I'm tempted. Like, I've got stuff. I've paid for it. If someone wants to pay for the shipping for me to get it to you, or we split the shipping, I'll send darts for review. I don't care. I've got tons of stuff. And I think that's a great idea. And for those of you that are watching this as we just chat here, there are little communities that we've created. And I'll give a huge shout out to why am I blanking on a name here? The Scottish.
I'll tell you why, because if you miss anyone out, you'll be in trouble.
Yeah. The Scottish Darts lad is the one that really created some groups for all of us to connect the YouTubers.
Yeah, Kieran.
And so huge shout out to him for doing that. And, we all collab. We talk. Darts referee. I mean, all of us, we have communications and we talk about what we're doing so that we can produce a better product in our own right, in our own style for those that watch. So I don't know many other YouTube organizations or groups of people that review stuff that do as much as we do collabing together. So I'm excited about it. It's fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's an idea that two or three of us have had, but I don't know whether you've been spoke to about it or not. But I mean, I know we're live on air and what have you, but I thought what a cracking thing would be to do was for somebody who does proper darts reviews like you review the darts, we'll sort it out, you send me the darts, I'll throw them. I'll put some 180s in and some 140s in with them, with some good footage. I thought that would work out, and then we can sit like this and talk about a barrel or a certain set of darts or a certain type of equipment. I just think that would make some great content.
And you guys get to just be a part of this. This is a great idea. And what I think I'll do is, with some of the stuff I've got, I'm going to send stuff and we'll send it around. And we'll get 3 or 4 of us, or 5 or 6. I don't care. We'll get a number and we'll just do a 2 or 3 hour deal where we all have tried darts out. We give our own perspective. Like, we'll just show like a dart, whether, maybe it's the Danny Baggish, and I'll send them around. And then we all talk about the Danny Baggish and say, here's my thoughts on it. Here's what I like about it. Here's what I didn't like about it. That's a great idea to do a show every couple of months where we all come together and we just talk about it.
It could be something like a 2-hour special, and we could review 5 or 6 different things where people can do, like they used to do with Darts Planet TV. They can drop in and out.
Yeah.
We can have a load of banter. We can have a dartboard up and thinking. They do this knacker thing and what have you. I don't mind playing people.
Yeah.
Why? We can play each other live while we're doing it.
I think this is a really good idea, by all means. And I've been looking, I look at my darts. I've got a pile of them just off the other side of my monitor here, sitting on the shelf. And I'm like, oh, I got a pile behind me I need to review. I should send this stuff out to others to review. Part of it is there's certain darts that I like to keep because I'm like, these are awesome. But at the same time, we really spread the wealth type of thing, because I know there are other reviewers out there that may not have the financial ability that's stuff that I have done in life, that it allows me to have a little bit more financial ability to just buy stuff, like go online and be like, hey, I'll buy this. I think it's a great idea. Yep, I'm gonna do it. There you go, you guys. Be ready. There's darts coming your way. So
it's great content, and like you say, what we could do at the end of it is, like you say, all of us, every one of us, have got darts, right, that we've reviewed that will never be used again.
Yeah.
Why don't we give them to disabled people, disabled darts associations and stuff like that? I see that's the way my brain works, and it's what I do. Like I was talking about Stockport Darts, I don't charge them when I go there. I go there and I give me coaching for free. But I used to do the same thing at certain pubs and places. So that's my little bit of giving away my actual time and being with people and coaching them. And then obviously I've got the commercial side of it as well. But I like everything that, again, it's like the thing of the debacle over the raffles that I was doing. That I never made a penny out of that. I'm dead open about everything that I do. I show everybody what I'm doing. I've done a video where I was cutting the tickets and how much money was coming in, like the Christmas raffle. Right, I took 1,265 quid, and it cost me 1,200 quid to do it. And then out of the £65, I had to pay the postage. And one of them was to South Africa, one of them to America. It's gone.
Yeah.
I was actually out of pocket for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and like I talked yesterday, it's really, we do this for the love of the sport and the love of this type of stuff. Have I paid a bill off the money I've made off this stuff? No. Yeah. Do I get some ad revenue, like, $80 or $90 a month? Yeah. Which I turn around and buy darts, or I buy stuff for my kids or do other stuff. So, but that's neither here nor there. I guess, I've been getting on that tangent a little too much lately, in my opinion. I agree with you. We need to do a little bit more collabing, and I think that would be fun. I think it'd be, for the darts community, for all of us to kind of come together and talk about just what we're doing would be awesome. But Dynamite Dave, we've gone over a little, and I just had a
I can hear somebody shouting here. Come on, Dad!
He's like, we're going to the snow, right? So, sir, where can people find you? Again, I could sit here and talk all day with you and go. We could get into depth stuff, but where can people find you so that they can communicate with you? Because there's a lot of questions that people definitely have.
Right, best place. YouTube is for you to watch my videos. They're all free, as they are on YouTube. Loads of instructional stuff there. Facebook, type in David Llewellyn, Manchester. Sometimes do that. The easiest way to do it, and the way to find me from everywhere, is just Google it. You just Google Dynamite Dave. I'm about the top 10 results. Email, if you want a thing, email me about coaching. So if you want a coaching video or out like that, it's dj.llewellyn123@outlook.com. So it's dj.llewellyn123@outlook.com. Simple as that.
Well, Dynamite Dave, thank you so much for being on the show. And again, I want to thank my sponsors, Shot Darts, Magicwear, Condor Flights and Shaft, and of course, the wonderful coffee that you can get from Atomic Darts. Everybody, thanks for watching. Dynamite Dave, thanks for being on the show again. We're going to have you back on, in the near future, and we'll talk more. And I think I'm going to run with this idea. I think I'm going to send some darts out today. There are a few darts reviewers that could use some stuff, and then we'll get together. We'll talk. We'll go on and we'll figure it out. So, guys, thank you everybody for watching today, hanging out, and spending an hour and a half with us. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys. I'll be on next Tuesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks, Dave. Talk to you later.
Toast to the hockey.
Toast to the hockey.